pregame show.
I'll be there. I'll be there. I got four fingers. I'll be there. Take care of my own.
I know. Nobody got one. They want everyone.
I've read the whole thing. The only thing here
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the info.
Just wanted to make sure that he had his.
Yep. Thank you, man. Right. Okay, well, I appreciate it.
You're riding an awful lot. You're riding an awful lot.
I'm writing a lot.
You'll be busy tonight?
Huh?
You'll be busy here tonight? Oh, really?
Hey Jeff, since I wasn't here the last meeting, I should probably abstain from the former meeting, the minutes of the former meeting.
Yeah, abstain from that since you weren't here. All the rest is resolutions and the ordinance.
Yeah, I figured that, but I should abstain from that.
It's fun to listen to now. It's so fun back to the first one.
Did you get my email?
Yeah. Say my autograph.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
Actually, they were just about done.
Today is the 7th, so the 14th and the 21st.
Hi, Jeff. I didn't post that tonight. Yes, that was a public hearing.
Hey, did you wear that to rub it in tonight? I lost all kinds of sleep last night after that Bears game.
Oh, that was awful,
Oh
wasn't
my
it?
God.
You know, and I remember that kid, he was on for preseason back about, and that's 3 or 4 years ago. That's different now. Pretty good kicker. Because I remember Kerry and I saw him kick over at, then they had their camp over at Anderson. So we saw him over there, and then we saw him in preseason games. He really was pretty good. But we knew they'd let him go, so we ended up carrying him. And it was like, let it go. I felt a little bad. Pardon me?
Man, this is one little.
Yes. It was just barely 10, which was only golf. I mean, actually, if somebody said you got points for hitting the post, that would be harder than hitting.
What do you have?
Yeah, they called timeout right before he kicked. He made one, but that didn't count.
That was beautiful, wasn't it, that guy? I guess that's like 54th or 5th time that's happened.
Yeah, guys, I remember him when he was with the Colts.
There's not actually a house on it. They sold the house off the property.
Okay, shit. You ever see Ronnie Mack?
Taking bids on something. That's true. That duck came in.
Have good Christmas down in sunny.
Oh my goodness!
Awesome.
Hey Rex.
Looked awesome.
Oh, I loved it. The kids were there, and we were spent a good day with them. So
That's great. Jealous.
you know, I'll be 63 Friday. I'm going to ride down there every now and then. You know what?
Do whatever you want. You're right.
We're going to work here for 2 weeks, and then going back for 2 more weeks.
I don't know who to put in this one. If you've got somebody that wants to buy it, I don't know who to put in the touch here. Because if the guy's dead, I mean, I think I can get a search on it, but it'll probably just show his name.
That's a good goal to have.
See that whoever. There it is.
Yeah, we haven't made it.
That's right. He hadn't been in a while, but you know, kind of what works.
So we played the sidewalk program comes out of Riverboat.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Rex here, Mark now. Might have been maybe the year before you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said it's $5,000 a year is what he said.
I got you.
Hey, sidewalk fund $5,000 a year.
So it's money.
Up to 15,000.
Up to 15,000. With a $500 maximum.
Yes. Yes. Well, Josh, Showfree's working across the street from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I looked at it and read it, and I got mulling in my mind.
You know where I'm going, Chris. I said, you know what? We have a sidewalk program, you know. And they said, oh yeah, we know about it. We've got the application. I'm like, I was, you know, Jen spoke to me, he says he wanted to look at me. Totally just, you know.
Well, of course, a lot of towns use transfer.
I'm just trying to give you $500.
The other one,
Yeah.
I think,
He's a nice guy, he was.
passed it, Marion County, they have.
I don't miss meetings unless I have to, but I figured I'd better miss than to bring it in here.
Sure. That's good color on you. Say
Half
that,
the time when I put something on, yeah, thanks. Half the time when I put something on in my closet or bedroom, then I get out and it looks like a totally different
Yeah.
color when I get out in brighter light. You know?
Well, I don't leave the house unless I walk by my wife and say, "This look all right."
Well, you always look impeccable.
Yeah.
It's gray hair. Yeah, that's a scratch. You lost gray hair. Maybe you lost a gray hair.
I got a lot of it.
Not losing it though.
Huh?
No,
No, nothing. Bare spots. Big bare spots. Feels good blowing over here.
Oh, you must be coaching. Freshman basketball.
You used to be too.
What was it today's date?
Everyone rise, please.
Still there?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Back forward, please, in prayer, please.
Heavenly Father, we just come before you this evening, and we thank you for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. We just ask you to continue that, and we ask you, Lord, to bless this meeting tonight and be a hedge of protection about our city in Jesus' name.
City Council meeting Monday, January 7th, 2019, comes to order. Roll call, please.
Mary Burnson.
Here.
Jeff Hancock.
Here.
Jerry Walden.
Here.
Aaron Dickens. Mark Covert.
Here.
Lynn Purdue.
Here.
Rex Peckham.
Here.
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes from the former meeting?
I would like, under committee reports where I was, that we do mention that I brought up the trail along Washington Street, and that we're going to have a meeting about that at some point, like that reflected in the minutes.
Can I make a motion, we accept the minutes underneath Rex's amendment?
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mary Burnson.
Abstain.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Covert.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckham.
Aye.
Motion carries 5 to 1 abstain, 1 absent. Before we get started today, we have some housekeeping, or some house cleaning. Are there any nominations this year for president, vice president?
I'd like to nominate Mark Coker as president.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Any other nominees?
Move we close the nominations.
Motion to move, second.
Second.
And another second to close it. Do we do vice president or just one at a time?
Do one at a time.
Roll call vote, please.
Mary Burnson.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Covert.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckham.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Say no.
Kind of blindsided.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Jeff Hancock as vice president.
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
What
Move we
about I
close.
nominate Lynn Purdue?
You can nominate whoever you want to.
You nominate
Okay.
why you want to. Do you accept that nomination, Lynn?
Not at this time, but thank you for your motion.
Okay. We have a motion move.
Move we close.
Roll call vote, please.
Who seconds?
Oh, I seconded
Rex did.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Mark made the motion, Rex second.
Okay. Mary Brington.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hogarth.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckinpah.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I turn this meeting over to you.
Thank the council for your trust in me another year. President, I appreciate that. Tonight, we have a few things on the agenda. We're going to start with the ordinances first, the third reading of 3801, amending Title 7, Chapter 74, Schedule 5 of the City Code, establishing new speed limits on certain streets. I move we accept that.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. Okay, now this is like any street, right? Not just one certain, like, if somebody comes up and says, we want to change our speed limit to 20 mile an hour, we can, does it have to be done individually, or is it just on certain streets?
One at a time.
Yeah, this is
One
the
at a time,
17th.
One at a time.
but all is open, right? Like, if anybody come in and had a valid reason to do this,
Right, the
we have to do
traffic
it one
committee
at a
would
time.
look at it and then
Okay,
possibly.
all right, that's what I needed to know.
I just want to thank Rex for bringing it before the council and allowing us to take a look at that there on the 17th between Broad and Woodward. It was something that was needed. Glad we reacted the way that we have on that, so thank you, Rex.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mary Brington.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hogarth.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckinpah.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next is second reading and public hearing on ordinance 3800 vacating a certain alley. I'll turn the floor over to Dave to open up the public hearing.
Yes, we're here for a public hearing on ordinance 3800. This is an ordinance vacating a certain alley located behind 904 Spring and 310 North 9th. And it would be west of those addresses and east of 908 Spring. It's an unimproved alley. At this time, would anyone wish to come forward and present evidence, comments, or a presentation to the council regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, I would suggest that we close the public hearing and proceed with the voting on the ordinance.
Thanks, Dave.
I'll make a motion for second reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mary Brington.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hogarth.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckinpah.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
I'd like to suspend the rules for the third reading.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mary Brington.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hogarth.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckinpah.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
I'd like a motion for third reading for 3800.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mary Brington.
Aye.
Jeff
Aye.
Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hogarth.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckinpah.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0. So that's the third and final reading. So it's a done deal in the book.
Next, we have first reading of ordinance 3802, which is amending ordinance 3794, 3796, 3797, and 3799. It's an ordinance amending the ordinance which established the salaries of the following departments within the city of Newcastle. 1 was hourly workers, and 2 was administrative and management employees, 3 was police department, and 4 was fire department. Whereas the common council established the salaries and benefits of 1, the hourly salaried workers of passing ordinance 3796, 2 administrative and management salaries by passing ordinance 3794, 3, police department salaries by passing ordinance 3799. And 4, fire department salaries by passing ordinance 3797, whereas it has been determined that said ordinances must be amended, now therefore be it ordained by the common council of the city of Newcastle that the following ordinances are amended as follows. Ordinance number 3794 is hereby amended as follows. A, police department mayor board members, $50 per meeting to a maximum of $350 annually. 2, ordinance 3796 is hereby amended as follows. City building, city custodians at $15.60 an hour. 3, ordinance 3797 is hereby amended as follows. Longevity pay at $15 per pay. And 4, ordinance 3799 is hereby amended as follows. A, extra duty pay, no more than 2 extra duty pays per individual. And B, longevity pay, $15 per pay. All other provisions of ordinance 3794, 3796, 3797, and 3799 not amended by this ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. I move that we accept 3802.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mary Branson.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hooker.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckham.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next, a resolution 0107, 2019-1, transferring funds within funds. Whereas the transfer does not require the expenditure of more money than the total amount set in the budget for that fund, now therefore be resolved by the common council of the city of Newcastle that the clerk treasurer's office shall be permitted to make the following budgetary transfers within the fund budget: from the MVH fund, $200,000, to the from MVH 201 to MVH restricted funds 203. This resolution is retroactive to December 31st, 2018, and approves and authorizes the above referenced transfers which occurred before preparation of the final report as prepared by the clerk treasurer. This is the intent to conform with the recommendations made by the State Board of Accounts and State Examiner's Directive number 2018-2 dated December 20th, 2018, and its regulations and procedures. Does anybody have anything to add on that? If not, I move that we accept that.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? There's some changes in MVH this year that it's gonna be a little different, but it's workable and make it work. Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mary Branson.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hooker.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckham.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next is resolution 0107, 2019-2, encumbered some funds from one year, 2017, to another year, 2018. Whereas the council has the duty and authority to maintain and allocate funds as necessary from the adopted budget to maintain fiscal integrity of the city of Newcastle and maximize efficiency, whereas it becomes necessary to encumber funds for the end of year 2017 for the fiscal integrity of the city of Newcastle. Now, therefore be it resolved by the common council of the city of Newcastle, Indiana, that clerk treasurer has notified and informed the council of the need to encumber funds of the following. Section 1, that the following sums are to be encumbered. 1 is a COET special distribution in the amount of $169,177. 2, the clerk treasurer is hereby authorized and directed to transfer those funds as indicated. And Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effect without further notice or further approval. Christie, you got anything real quick on that?
When we encumbered or brought forward paving from 17 to 18 for to pay the bill, I forgot to encumber the special blow-up which we were gonna use and clear that fund out. So this just corrects that error, because the money was used for paving for this year.
Any other questions or comments?
I move that we accept that resolution.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Mary Brinson.
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Hubbard.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Russ Hackenball.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Next is Resolution 0107-2019-3, transferring funds within funds from one department classification to another. Whereas it is necessary to transfer funds from the 2018 budget from one budget classification to another within the clerk treasurer's office of the city of Newcastle. Whereas this transfer does not require the expenditure of more money than the total amount set out in the budget for that fund. Now therefore be resolved by the Common Council of the City of Newcastle that the Clerk Treasurer's Office shall be permitted to make the following budgetary transfers. There are several, again, like we had last meeting. If anybody from the public would wish to see this, we do have copies of these. It is another large sum of $34,400 going to the EMS 100 line, which we encumbered, well, we took over $150,000 last time, so it made it a total of $185,000 approximately, give or take, that we had to transfer over to the EMS 100 line. I'd like to read something before anybody makes a motion on this. As to this resolution, I would like to address this in the last transferring the funds to the EMS 100 line, which the 100 line is for salaries. There's been over $185,000 transferred to this account, 100 line, from other departments within the city, such as the police department had $45,000, fire department had $37,000, cemetery had $7,000, pool $2,000, park $3,200, legal fund $24,000, just to name a few. Now first, I would like to say thanks to all the department heads and especially Christie's office for staying within and under their budgets for that year, because they do that for emergency situations that arise in December or later in the year. Because if those department heads had not done that, we as council would be sitting here taking that money out of our rainy day fund. The overtime, which is time and a half salaries that went to the EMS, that occurred over the last 7 months, that, you know, these departments that gave up their money had to give up their money because they had the money. They're in need of life-saving equipment. Fire department, police department. I'm sure Parks Department would like to add that $3,200. But in other words, we were saddled with overtime that was spent out of the EMS. Not saying it was unnecessary, but it sure wasn't good budget sense. So looking into this, we need to get this under control as a council. And I'm the first one to step up and say, me too. And it will be by the middle of February. This city cannot absorb any more large unexpected expenditures from any department like we had to witness this past December. In the 10 years I've been on this council, we've never come close to having to encumber money. And the stress that it put on our clerk treasurer's office was very, very unnecessary. I hope, from my perspective, and I'm speaking for myself, that this never happens again. Ever happens again in our city, as long as I'm on council. Does anybody else from council have anything to add to that?
I think you said it all.
I move that we accept that resolution.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mary Branson,
Aye.
Jeff Hancock.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Coker.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckham.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
That concludes ordinances and resolutions. I move that we move to committee reports. I'll turn the floor to Council Lady Brant.
Okay, very unpopular subject, and I know I'm gonna get trashed on for bringing it up. But it seems like the east side of town, you can't drive on a road on the east side of town without tearing your car up. South 25th Street is horrible. There in front of the Village Pantry, there was a hole, I know, 10 inches deep. They did finally get it, but it had been there for a couple weeks, I know of. Troy Avenue, I've had several people call me that work at Foam Rubber. That road is like back in the old days. It'd be better off gravel, I think, because of the potholes in it. You know, I don't know what's the answer. Do we need to hire more people for Lee to help, you know, get a handle on this? Or do we just throw gravel down and let people drive on gravel roads?
With what MVH just told us, we need to eliminate a person in the Lee's department with new rules coming out from MVH.
I don't know. I mean, and I know this is, you know, it's at Muncie, it's everywhere you go. But, you know, our infrastructure in our city is horrible. I mean, you can't have a decent car in this town.
They're working on top
And
of
I
it.
know
They-
they're
they
working
get a
on it.
chance, and
But
they're
it just
working
seems
on
like
it.
there's parts of town that sure look a whole lot better than the east side of town.
I agree with you. I was over there the other day, and
Yeah.
I tell you what, driving on 2 or 3 of those roads, especially, I'm sure that's well. Most of them, it was dead awful.
Well, there's, anybody that calls in, there's no one side of town that gets treated any different than any other side of town. I promise you.
But it sure looks like it, Greg. I mean, you know, I get up here and I turn in my reports and it's like, I'm sure my constituents wonder, is she even doing her job? You know, I do the best I can. I turn in things. You know, if people call me, I try to do my best. But then, you know, you look at our end of town, you come in on East 38, it looks horrible. You know, the whole, just the way the town looks on that side.
When
No.
was the last time we paved a street east of 14th and north of, or south of, Washington's the only
Washington
one,
Street.
you know, from Washington
Well,
Street
Broad
on.
Road just got,
That was the state.
The state did that.
That's, Washington Street was, the other street going alongside Willow Wright was paved too.
Right, so.
all I
We
say
don't do
is
much
that
out there.
there's not one side of town gets treated any different than the other side. When the calls come in, they're turned in to Lee's office, and they get to them as quick as they can. Some of them don't last over a couple weeks, but we talked about this at the last meeting, they're looking into new equipment, that will help take care of that. But I assure you, there's not one side of town gets treated any different than any other side.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that piece of equipment that Lee had brought up last time. I know at one point, several years ago, 14, 15 years ago, we had that machine. I remember it.
Not that machine.
Not, well, one similar. It's the same theory, and I'm sure they've improved on that technology. But the only thing at the time that I wasn't really, you know, too keen on at the time, they were using that machine to repair not only potholes but street cuts. And I drove back by just to kind of see some of those areas I remember them repairing, and they have since been dug up and asphalted the proper way. Now, I'm not against the machine, because I think if the machine, Mary, would increase our efficiency and help our labor force, and those potholes be fixed, I won't say fixed, patched, okay? Now, there's a difference there. I mean, if the patch sticks, if you can get to it quicker, and if it stays longer, then I'm for that machine. The only thing I'm not for that machine is calling it a repair. You know, if we go through and we patch a hole the size of this, you know, table here, that's gonna come out at some point in time. And there's areas in town where there's, 15, 20 feet stretch of bad pavement. I don't want that to be a patch with that machine. At some point, if we need to patch it this time of year to get us through till spring, till the paving plant's open, perfect. But at some point, that needs to be cut out, cemented, and paved properly. So, but that may, to use that machine, if it would increase our lead time, to improve our lead time to get to these troubled areas, and the patch would last longer, then I think we should take a look at it. I just don't want to get that machine, labeled as a repair. It's a patch.
Well, there's some different situations. There's road cuts, whether it's a gas line, water line, or sewer line, and they're taken care of completely different than what this machine would do.
Correct.
As soon as it settles and it's concreted, and it leaves an inch and a half or an inch and a quarter, put asphalt on top of that, and then it's sealed around the edges so it will last longer. This is not that machine.
Okay. I just didn't want that to be confused. I want the street cuts to be repaired properly. But that may be the answer, what Lee was talking about. And I think there was a time crunch there that you were trying to.
I got a call this past Friday that of the 62,000, I think it was 62.9 machine, there's 2 left with this company now. The difference in the machine is basically the diesel fuel exhaust system on it. On the other machine that was approximately $10,000, $11,000 higher, it was because EPA came in and said you have to use what they call DEF fluid in it, which is a liquid that all the new diesel trucks now have. It's an exterior tank. You pump, basically it's a glorified water mixture. It helps break down the exhaust. That's the only 2 differences in the machine. But there is only 2 left with in their system through Southeastern. That is at the 62.9, I think, right now.
Am I wrong? I thought last meeting, Christie, you said that we had the money in MVH to buy that machine.
I said we have money in MVH to
Fine it because they offer, I forget how many years.
Right,
Yeah. Okay, so.
But that was before we got a letter from MVH too.
Correct. One of the things, and I think it's a topic on our agenda with finance next meeting, is to discuss that equipment and proceeding, going forward, or what you're wanting to do. Because it would take, we would have to bid the equipment, bid the finance rate, bid a bank. It can't just be financed, you have to bid all that. And the bids opened in Board of Works or presented in Board of Works, and then an ordinance to council to request the authorization of finance. So what I told Lee was, it's a 45-day process to finance something, to lease purchase anything, or to even purchase it for that matter, because we would have to still do the bidding process. So we may miss out on the cheaper ones, because we have to do that process.
Do we have a schedule of streets that's going to be repaved for this next school?
I have them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had 25th on there. I actually had it on there last year, but we didn't get that grant, so.
That's what I thought.
But it's on there again as priority this year.
So they are
Now, Troy Avenue,
prioritized.
in that area out there, we've got a future storm separation project that's going on out there. So I would rather just continue to patch out there. I know you want new roads out there, but we'll get new roads by default in this project. And you don't want to put new roads down and have to tear them out, dig them up, put in new lines, and then put them back again.
Just for years.
That wouldn't be efficient. I don't want to waste, taxpayer dollars.
All of Q Avenue, they're on the south side of the road, there's a terrible ditch. And that's slated to be a whole brand new road within the next couple of years. Pretty much all of Q Avenue.
We did do South 25th Street Friday, and we also did Troy Avenue, part of Troy Avenue last week on cold patches.
So Christie, but with all that you just talked about, what kind of time frame are we looking there? I mean, we haven't really hit the real heavy pothole season yet. It's you know, in front of us.
Normally the process is anytime there's a piece of equipment or financing, we present it to Finance Committee of Council first, explain where those funds are gonna come from, and just kind of secure and explain to council how we're gonna pay for it if we get it. And then I request rate bids for financing, and generally the local banks, and I have a couple other banks, bid and give me a rate. And Board of Works chooses the lowest rate, and then it's presented to council in an ordinance or a resolution to authorize us to enter into a lease purchase for that piece of equipment.
So
if
2
it's an
months?
ordinance, it's 3 readings. Of course, you usually suspend on the second, pass it, second and third. It really all depends on how much we're talking. If it's over 150,000, it's gonna require an ordinance. If it's under, it's typically a resolution, but it would come to you. So at least minimum 30 days.
Okay. Okay.
I do have 5 different quotes on a version of the Durapatch. They're called a couple different things, but I do have 5 quotes, and the price range is anywhere from $62,900. I think the highest was $77,800, I believe. Just a difference in, a little bit difference in each one of the machines, what they're capable of doing.
And Lee, you truly feel like this machine would make a huge impact on our situation?
I have checked Lincoln Avenue before we did that, going down the hill there, probably 7 or 8 times since we've done it. It's as firm today as it was the day that we did it. Where on Main Street, a couple holes there that we've already had to fill 3 or 4 different times since then because of the rain and the traffic and the pours out. Now, right there with a good solution. We are throwing sand down over when we patch the hole now, instead of just letting the cars pick it up, we're throwing sand down to try to give it a little different surface so the traffic don't pick that coal mix right back up out of the hole. But I do feel that this machine would be a big asset, not only to our department, but to the city as a whole, because it is more of a permanent patch. It's not going to come out like cold mix does.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at. And I will tell you this, since you're talking about it, Case Construction gives grants to small cities and towns. I applied for it's a non-matching grant. It's $25,000. I sent them a video of the Durapatcher, why we need the Durapatcher, and who would benefit from it. I did get word back that they accepted our offer, or our proposal to be put in the running for that $25,000. It would come back to us in April if we were lucky enough to get the 25 grand from it. But like I said, it's a non-matching. It's just something they do to see publicity for their company. It's called Dire States is the name of the grant.
So do we as a council need to do anything to initiate the process of pursuing that?
What I would ask is that you allow finance to look at it in 2
Okay.
weeks, only because of the new directive that's come down with MVH. We need to sit down and look at those specifics. Whenever, just as an explanation, whenever we budgeted earlier this year for 19, we were informed that we could only budget 60% for wages and benefits of our annual distribution. On December 20th, I received a directive that we could only spend 50% on operating. That's everything. The other 50% has to go on the road. in either paving. It can also be used in other areas of repair, maintenance, equipment. But with it being year end, I haven't had time to look at that directive and how it is what it says we can and can't do. I have given finance a copy of that directive, and have asked them to sit down with us and review it and figure out what we need to do. So I would ask that finance be allowed to look at the directive and figure out what our financing is and how we're gonna deal with what they've changed on us.
Okay, understood.
Okay, you know, I'll just save this for the next meeting because I don't want to go here. So I'll turn it over to Jeff.
First of all, congratulations, Rex, for 1,000 wins. That's a milestone.
Oh, yeah.
Well deserved and all that. Greg, thank you, and you and your staff for working on Christmas Eve, repairing a water main leak.
Saved your mailbox this time, didn't you?
Saved a mailbox.
That was a priority.
Barely.
Careful.
And then I thought 2018 was a great year and all that, and looking forward for 2019. I know a lot of you are short-staffed and all that. You did such a great job and all that. So looking forward for 2019. Patty, you and the park board. Mike, what a great year you had. I'm sure you'll have another great year. Carrie on Main Street, thumbs up, always looks great and all that. And Corey, you on EDC, looks great. Looking forward to 2019. Jerry, that's all I have.
I'm going to ask the other council members if everyone's okay with putting the ordinance that Dave showed us for the land bank. We can get that put on the agenda for next meeting. Everyone okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all I have. And Dave, thanks for putting that together too.
I have nothing tonight.
Last meeting, I kind of brought up a little bit about some funding for Main Street. I had a chance to talk with Carrie. Rex and I met with her, and I kind of just want to have a feel for where her funding comes from, what her volunteer committee, what it's made up from, what their visions are, and so on, and kind of got a good feel for where how that committee operates. And right now, I think all of us kind of feel like our Main Street, our Broad Street, is from 14th Street to Main Street. It gets a lot of attention, which it should. But when you really step back and look, I can walk out my office and look to the east, and I can see clear down to 18th Street with no problem. We have a huge Main Street, Broad Street, area there. And I'm not saying we have to, give all that area a lot, the loving that the other two blocks get, but it's there, it's visible. But with that being said, there's a lot going on downtown. And Carrie and her staff, her volunteer group, do a fantastic job. And we all know that. But they are pretty well limited on what they can do with their funding. So I'd like to see the city give them some help. They've got a great volunteer group that are ready to go. They've got a lot of great ideas, what they would like to do, but Christmas decorations and pots and all these things, it's expensive. Not only does it take a lot of time, but it's very expensive. And I think she told me her group raises between their fundraising and donations they get from the private sector, somewhere around between $20,000 and $25,000 a year is what they have to work with, and that just doesn't go very far. So I'd like to make a motion that we commit out of Riverboat $25,000 to her, that group, and it won't be specified for anything like a certain Christmas decorations or anything like that, that was what her volunteer group can spend that as they see, the need. And then with the new budget, I'd like to see the finance committee try and find to put that $25,000 line item back in there again. It was there once, it got lost.
Where was it at?
I think Dave had told me it was in there at one point.
Yeah, we had a downtown non-reverting fund.
Oh, okay.
And you put about that amount in it every year.
Okay.
And it got up to, I don't remember how much, but then it was,
It didn't come out of Riverboat.
oh,
No,
no.
no,
It
no,
was
no.
budgeted every year.
Well, I'll second Lynn's motion. So,
Gary, what
So
kind of
before-
things could you do with an extra 25,000?
I mean, a lot.
I know I'm putting you on the spot, but
Well, I was just telling Corey earlier, it's a little bit different. Typically, we have an idea, and then we have to figure out how to get the money, right? So now we would have the money, and then we get to have some ideas. So that's fun, but it's a little bit of a change of mindset. We have a banner program right now, and we would need new banners for new light poles, trash cans, flowers. Flowers cost a lot to maintain and purchase that material. Upgrading downtown Wi-Fi would be a main thing. Some marketing and promotion. And I think, actually Mike Bergen and I talked this morning about just getting bodies downtown. And maybe that's Food Truck Fridays, or there's concerts in the plaza. I mean, there's so many things. You could give me all the money and I would figure out how to spend it. But yeah, there's so many things I think we could do and really spend that to get people downtown, because I think that's a
And it's ridiculous, the new trash cans that she just bought,
they're like $600.
$600 a piece. It's not right. They cost what they cost.
They look good, though.
They look good.
They're
They look
easy
a lot
to-
better.
I think,
easy to empty.
right, Lee?
Yes.
What was the other
They're easy to do. I had an
$60
empty
back
package.
in
I thought you
Butter's
were looking
days
at
or
Corey.
something?
No.
So it cost.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
He knows what it's about.
Before we move on with the motion in the second, is it your guys' preference to take 25 out of Riverboat into non-reverting every year?
I think,
Have Christie
no,
just-
I think what our initial thought process is that we're not able to put anything in the budget for 2019. Okay, we've already done that. We've already done the
Right, right,
budget.
right,
So we get her started this year with $25,000 out of Riverboat, then we work toward
Finding a
getting,
line item.
and there may
In a
be,
budget.
and that doesn't preclude her from, in the future, coming before us, say, hey, listen, we want to buy, I don't know, this or that, yeah,
Christmas decorations would be-
Christmas decorations and things.
It's there.
I mean, we're sitting there, I drive through so many places and you notice the Christmas decorations. I mean, we could have something different for just about every holiday, and people, I think people notice that when they drive through your town. And of course, the trash cans and the flowers, and I think keeping those things up is gonna be a big plus in terms of not only people being attracted to Newcastle in general, but also to the downtown area.
I'm all for it. I think for the 2020 moving of the funds, I think we need to get good wording in there in case 3 or 4 years down the road, it's not Main Street Group anymore, or maybe
Right.
something
And
else
I don't
has
think
come
it's,
along.
I think the non-reverting fund, and that's what you would transfer it to, is for downtown.
So would
downtown
it be
revitalization
through the
fund.
mayor's office or our parks board, or who would designate?
It would have to be, State Board of Accounts would require a claim to be approved.
Okay.
You couldn't just give, as honorable as Carrie is, and I know she would use the money fine,
No,
we
no.
can't just write her a check for $25,000.
No.
That's
No,
my,
no.
but I don't, so she would just come and bring us a receipt.
She have
She
a
would
line,
come-
a line of credit.
Mark,
I think
Kind of.
Christie wants to shoot me down.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is your road, so. Just trying to help you out.
I would recommend making her a department. It is hard to.
Okay. Well, we don't have to do it this year, so let's make sure we
Right.
put this in
It's
notes.
very hard to move money from a tax rate fund
To
to a
non-tax.
non-reverting fund, because typically a non-reverting fund collects fees or donations. it doesn't, it isn't
generates revenue.
funded by, yes, it isn't funded by tax rate. So if she was made a department, we could budget a department.
Okay.
We'll
We
put
talking
it
about
in the
riverboat?
future.
We talking about
No, no,
riverboat
no,
money?
we're just talking about future.
Okay, okay.
Future.
No,
You're just using riverboat,
In
this
19
$25,000.
That's
In
just
this-
to-
2020, if she was a
Stopgap.
department, then she would just work like any other
Have a line
department within
item.
the city.
We'll put Councilman Dickin in charge of that.
There you go.
She's not here.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Guys, thanks for looking into that. It's a lot of things going on downtown right now. And
Especially with the
this-
plaza coming too.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
that's gonna take expertise.
I think you did a great job with the funds you've had and all that. It looks great, so. Always
Any
holler
other
at me when I
questions
see
or
her out there
comments?
working, thumbs up.
So there's been motion.
And second.
Second.
Yeah, Greg second.
We'll redo those.
And second, roll call vote, please.
Mary Drington.
Aye.
Jeff Higgins.
Aye.
Jerry Walden.
Aye.
Mark Coker.
Aye.
Lynn Purdue.
Aye.
Rex Peckham.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Just for a side
Happy
note,
$25,000.
Thank you.
I'll earmark
Yeah.
her, and that way she can.
We'll mark that off the 297.
Whatever.
You done,
she
Rex?
can-
I didn't start.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah. I see how it is, man. You're just gonna try to run over me. Lynn hasn't yielded the floor yet.
I'm sorry.
You done, Lynn?
I'm done. Thank you.
Tease.
I just got really one thing. Will we be able to meet about the trails sometime in the next week or two? So maybe before the next meeting. Okay.
When's your next trails meeting? I mean, this could be the whole trails board.
We can meet. We'll just find out when it is then. I mean, we'll send out an email and find out when everybody can meet. And then we'll have it.
Whenever you guys get next meeting set up, we're ready.
All right. And that's it, Your Honor. Thank you.
I'll take the floor for a second. Corey, I didn't mean to pass you up during my committee report. I could see you're eager to have the floor. Have the floor, my friend.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Your providing Main Street funding couldn't play any more better into my comments about what I see as the trends going forward within economic development and how it impacts Henry County and Newcastle. And those are two things. One is quality of place, and the other one is workforce. So you supporting Carrie's efforts and the Main Street Group's efforts in leveraging and improving downtown Newcastle for quality of place is fantastic. So as a board member of Main Street, I certainly appreciate you all making those funds available. I know that when I need to ask for money, I know who to send in the future. She tells me she has an office here. I said, well, you can't fight City Hall. So thank you. You know, you've already mentioned the plaza, 1400 Plaza, and I think that we'll see additional private investment occur, and I'm not telling you something that I know. I just think it will naturally occur. The impact that plaza will have in downtown, I think, will move some projects forward in terms of people wanting to invest in downtown. Just today, I used the following 3 documents or plans that you all either partially funded or substantially funded. I used the Vanderwall downtown strategy, I used the housing study, and I used the comp plan, just today. In helping to convince maybe somebody to take a look at us for a project. So I know sometimes they're, you know, why do we plan? Why do we have to spend this money to plan? Is it just going to sit on a shelf? So I thought it would be beneficial for you to know that.
No video?
No video. No video. It's wintertime. We can't use that video in the wintertime. We use it in the springtime.
invite you to go to our website. I thought this was my time to talk.
I just interjected, trying to keep you moving.
Okay.
He's really messed you up, hasn't he?
Gotta get
Yeah.
a sink.
I invite you to go to our website, growinhenry.com. We try to put up a blog post at least monthly. But the three most recent blogs up there, one is about a partnership with the Career Center. So the County Redevelopment Commission entered into a 3-year agreement with the Career Center, $30,000 a year for them to purchase equipment, to train their students and make the training available to adults. So in terms of workforce, there's an article in there about the mayor and I's trip to Japan. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that trip. I gave a pretty full presentation at the last EDC board meeting, and there was a nice article in the Courier Times. And the third article that you'll find is about our location and how we're very competitive with food processing, and how the data backs up in terms of when people look at our region, in terms of workforce and infrastructure and resources. We're very competitive on food, and we continue to see that play out in the projects that we're working for. Appreciate your support for our efforts. Happy to answer any questions.
Corey, there was an article today in the Indianapolis Star by the economics guy, the development guy from up at Ball State, who I've disagreed with on more than one occasion.
I disagree with him so much I quit reading him. So.
Well, basically saying that our workforce efforts were misdirected.
Oh.
What's your thoughts on that?
It's going to be.
I would assume you disagree.
Yes, I disagree. I didn't read the article. I suppose now you tease me enough that I'll have to go out and see what he said.
Well, some of it made sense. He said we should put more money in K through 12, which I don't disagree with. But he was then
Well, that's a function of the state legislature.
That's right.
When they took over the funding of.
He was disparaging Ivy Tech and our efforts to
Yeah.
educate our workforce, and I thought it was ill-advised.
Yeah,
You should read it.
I probably won't. It'll make my blood pressure go up.
Your face already turned red.
Yeah.
Good rebuttal.
He doesn't listen. He doesn't care.
Still rebuttal.
He says that you should live in the same town you work in, and he doesn't. He works in Muncie, he lives in Yorktown. So,
I would just point to the our Career Center as homegrown, local, and connecting to local companies. And it is much easier. I mean, think of your own families, right? Much easier if you grew up here or if you have family here to keep what we have. And even if they move away, maybe they'll come back. And so I think investing in that talent is a really good strategy. So that would be my rebuttal. Other questions? Do we know how to find me? Appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks for the update.
I don't have anything else.
are there any citizens wishing to come before the council this evening?
I move we,
I'm with
sorry.
administration.
All right.
So hearing none, we'll move on to.
Thought we weren't going to give those guys a chance to get started.
Do you have anything? Doc? You do?
Yeah, the White Estates project, sanitary sewer project officially kicks off next week, so contractors are supposed to move into town. Don't know what they'll get done, but they'll be moving their equipment into town and getting set up. And they'll start on 10th and Southview, that area right there. They'll start with all the mains first, and then they'll backtrack and start catching some of the grinder stations. And
Are they going to have a staging area out there, Dave?
pardon me?
Are they going to have a staging area out there?
We're actually letting them stage down at the old REMC. I know it's not closed, but it was still convenient for them.
Fenced in and secure.
Yeah, secure.
That's all I have.
Any council?
The only thing I would say is, as we start a new year, we have a lot of volunteer boards. You know what they are. And these people put a lot of time in. We just had a RDC meeting last week, and, you know, these fellows have other things to do, but they came, and fellows and ladies, I'm sorry, and came and put in their time, and they really deserve our thanks collectively as a community and from council, because they don't get paid. They're here as a community service, and they do hard things. They make decisions that are not popular sometimes.
Yes, thanks, Dave.
Kristen? Kendra? Doug? Ed? Greg? Back to the public. Everyone to the public.
Val McNellis, 801 Hawthorne. I have the opportunity to work with special needs clients, and some of my clients sent letters to Santa this year, and we're thrilled to death with the responses that your secretaries or your staff did, so it's very much appreciated. Thank you.
We did 423 letters.
Wow.
Santa did 400.
Santa and his numbers.
Make sure Daryl gets that right in the paper. The Santa that did 423 letters.
Anyone else?
I move we adjourn, Your Honor.
Meeting adjourned.
For the second time, right?
Sit back here.